Hello and welcome back to my channel. It took me a little bit to get here today as I try to gather my thoughts around some of the headlines I've been seeing. So we're going to dive right in immediately and get into some juicy stuff. And Deadline, I'm talking to you. But before that, let's just go over quickly just something briefly I said yesterday in my video about these headlines coming out, and then we're going to get right into it. So if you're ready, I'm ready. It's hump day, baby. You're in frame with Mandy Magnan. At this point, it's like I never thought that I could feel bad for Brian Freeman because he is, a beast in the courtroom, and he has defended so many people who have been wrongly accused and is brilliant. I mean, he's a brilliant monster that you want in your corner, right? Like, he is actually so good. But at this point, I just feel like Blake's team is just drowning them in paperwork and motions and letters and this and that and that. And I really do think that this was submitted in order for the headlines tomorrow or even later today to read, Wayfair, Justin Baldoni hires team to investigate sexual harassment. Justin Baldoni knew about sex. You know what I mean? Like, this is all headlines. And the more that they project onto Wayfair and Justin Baldoni, they're actually doing it.
A few moments later.
We're going to get into this article written by Deadline about the current motions filing in the court and the sanctions. So get your emotional lip gloss because I am going in because this was one of the most biased articles I have ever read, and it just aggravates me and frustrates me so much because the people who are reporting this and the YouTubers and internet sleuths, if you will, and pro Justin Baldoni or team Wayfarer, they and me included, we don't lie, right? We don't tell the truth. We tell both sides of the story. We have full, clear proof and evidence that's been supplied. And we're not out here. I mean, no lies have been told. Everything that's been unearthed about Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are true. Most of the things have come from their own mouths. Everything that Brian Freeman has said has been in defense of things that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have either said or done. Brian Freeman is filing things in the court. Example, the Taylor Swift affidavit that he did. He did that in the courts. It was Blake Lively's team who ran to the media. And now with these things with sanctions and Rule 11, it's just extremely infuriating because when you hear lawyers and judges actually talk about this, and they say that Rule 11 is one of the most extreme filings you can ever do, and that this was like absolutely hardball nonsense because Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively already filed to get dismissed with this same stuff, and now instead of waiting, right, they're bombarding the courts even more and bullying Brian Freeman and the Wayfarer team by now filing these motions, and they're doing it just for the media and the headlines. And everything that is coming out of Blake Lively's camp is projection and a lie of what they themselves are actually doing. And it's been like this since the very beginning in summer of 2024 when Leslie Sloan was actually the one smearing the Wayfarer people and Justin Baldoni to the media and then saying that they were actually smearing her, but all they were doing was defending themselves. But it's okay, Deadline, because we know who lines your pockets. And Ryan Reynolds has his hands in more pockets than I think we are even aware of, because week after week, there's more projects, more things, more this, more businesses, more that, more that. I think he is the Khaleesi, and I've said this before. I think he is running the show. I think he has his hands in so many people's pockets that there are hundreds of millions of dollars if Ryan Reynolds loses. And yet, week after week after week, he's still coming out with new businesses and new endeavors, and that tells me everything I need to know about how serious they're taking this lawsuit. As I was reading this article last night before bed, I was getting really infuriated and frustrated by literally how biased it is, and it only says half truths and half stories. So we're just going to read it together and then we're going to get in, okay? Because I just can't believe how many half-truths are being told and how extremely biased articles can be until you really open your eyes and you read them, knowing what you know now about the case and how they're still trying to like pull one over and really like brainwash you into thinking that like, you know, Blake Lively hasn't lied every single step of the way, from the birthing scene to being shown pornography to the lingering on the kiss to the dance montage to, you know, it's just out of control. And I would like to point out that there are a couple grammatical errors and spelling errors. Now, I'm no one to be talking about that with my learning disability and dyslexia. You know what I mean? But I'm not writing for Deadline. Okay? You hear? You hear me? It's embarrassing. But this is how it starts. Days after a federal judge quickly shot down a Taylor Swift circus of sorts that seemed poised to take over the multiple lawsuits battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, the Another Simple Favor actress is calling out her It Ends With Us co-star for using an investigation on her sexual harassment claims to gum up the legal works. Lively's lawyer, Ezra Hudson, sent a letter to Judge Lewis J. Lyman Monday seeking documents and witness recordings concerning Wayfair's purported neutral workplace investigation into Miss Lively's sexual harassment and retaliation claims. The investigation, telling the federal judge something he likely already knows. The Manette attorney added, Wayfair is withholding such documents and recordings, claiming, at least for now, attorney-client privilege and work product. Insisting the so-called investigation is a disingenuous charade, Hudson explained, that the investigation materials are highly relevant, are necessary for Miss Lively and the court to ensure that witness engagement has been proper, and have put at issue by Wayfair, they must be produced. And this is when I really started to be like, what is going on here? With reference to the now tossed out Swift bullying accusation of May 14th, Lively's team are also seeking sanctions against Baldoni's Wayfair Studios, his execs, and PR teams for an amended complaint that supposedly had no reasonable basis in law or fact and clearly brought up an improper purpose. In a statement released Monday, mere minutes after the probe mocking letter hit the federal court docket, a spokesperson for Lively took a further kick at Baldoni and Wayfair's credibility when it comes to looking clear-eyed in their own alleged actions. Does anyone believe that Wayfair is genuinely investigating a film set workplace that no longer exists since Wayfair is now suddenly interested in conducting a workplace investigation? Here's a reminder of some of the things that Lively raised years ago during the filming of the movie, all of which are alleged in her amended complaint. The boss, Mr. Baldoni, described his pornographic addiction to his employees, Miss Lively. The boss, Mr. Baldoni, described his sex life in detail to his employees, Miss Lively, including instances where he had sex without consent or ignored someone saying no. The boss, Mr. Baldoni, made degrading and sexual comments to his employee, Miss Lively, including describing his genitalia and remarks that she looked sexy and hot. The boss, Mr. Baldoni, asked his employee, Miss Lively, about her sex life and her orgasms with her partner. The boss, Mr. Heath, showed his employee, Miss Lively, a video of his naked wife in labor without first asking for her consent. The boss, Mr. Baldoni, head of the studio, director of the film, and co-star, improvised intimate physical contact with his employee and co-star Miss Lively without warning or consent. This included sucking and biting her lip, kissing her forehead, rubbing her face and mouth against her neck, putting his thumb to her mouth and flicking her lower lip, and caressing her. The boss, Mr. Baldoni, cast his best friend to place his face between the legs of his employee, Miss Lively, for an intimate birth scene. The boss, Mr. Heath, refused to turn around, and when asked to, while his employee, Miss Lively, was having body makeup removed, and instead stared at her while she was topless. What was going on during the production of the domestic violence-themed It Ends With Us and the alleged astroturfing campaign that followed last year was seen Lively claiming that she was smeared to shut her up about Baldoni's behavior on set and beyond. Even if Baldoni's publicists state that they never had to do any smearing or anything else against the actress because the internet unprompted hated Lively, the actress has said there were threats against her husband Ryan Reynolds and their 4 children, and her hair products launch was financially disrupted. So on December 20th, Lively filed a sexual harassment and retaliation complaint with California's Civil Rights Department against Baldoni, his Wayfair Studios execs, and PR chiefs Melissa Nathan and Jennifer Abel with California's Civil Rights Department. Within just over a week, the lawsuit started flying, including evidence retention letters to Deadpool and Wolverine Distributions, Disney, and $400 million defamation and extortion claims from Baldoni against Lively. Reynolds, the couple's PR Chief Leslie Sloan and the New York Times, as everyone has now filed for dismissal, and the case has slightly stepped back from the headlines due to Sean Diddy Combs' ongoing sex trafficking trial. This case is set to start on March 9th, 2026. None of this needed to happen, and if Baldoni's company had done its job, almost none of it would have happened. If her complaints were properly investigated as the law requires, she may have also been spared the retaliatory smear campaign by Wayfair and its co-defendants. The 4-page letter Hudson sent to Judge Lyman today declares, instead, Wayfair waited years until the January 2025 to initiate this investigation. By that time, Wayfair had already forcefully publicly denied Ms. Lively's allegations and sued her and several others for $400 million for making the very same allegations that are now the subject of this neutral investigation for a workplace that no longer exists, the film said. What's more, by January, its counsel had repeatedly called Ms. Lively a liar in widely circulated media interviews. Hudson's letter for Lively goes on to say, under the guide of this investigation's neutrality, Wayfair is conducting one-sided interviews of unsuspected third parties, potentially tainting the ongoing litigation while reserving for itself the option of whether it will release its findings or bury them behind a cloak of attorney-client privilege. Meanwhile, the investigation has dragged on nearly 5 months, conveniently providing a pretextual basis for Wayfair to refuse to produce otherwise patently discoverable information. Reps for Baldoni and Wayfair Inner Circle did not respond for requests for comment from Deadline on today's filings and claims. In terms of the new sought sanctions, Lively's Manette and legal teams say that in that filing, as to an improper purpose, the FAC, the first amended complaint, was filed principally as a vehicle to seed harassing media narratives against Miss Lively is obvious. The examples are legion, from its legally meaningless 178-page Exhibit A to counsel's ghoulish taunt of Miss Lively's should testify about her degrading experience of sexual harassment at Madison Square Garden before 20,000 spectators and streamed for the world, to using the court's docket to level baseless allegations of extortion and spoliation of evidence against Ms. Lively and her counsel. So, with no one interested in any mediation or settlement talks here, expect a lot more of this scorched docket approach in the months to come. I know it might not seem like there's anything wrong here, but it is so one-sided from Lively, and we're just going to get into a few things here. And it's not this, the 4-page letter Hudson sent to Judge Lehman today. It's not that. We're not going to talk about that because who am I to talk about the spelling mistakes in your article? There's 2. This is one of them. Why didn't you write any of the things that Justin Baldoni is alleging that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds did? You've listed this whole long list of everything that Lively's camp said in this article. Let me remind you of what Blake Lively is claiming, right? But never once did you say anything of what Justin Baldoni is alleging or claiming. And I think it is really funny that Blake Lively's team keeps wanting to talk about how Brian Freeman said the Madison Square Garden and how she can testify there. If Blake is so open to go on Saturday Night Live, the Time 100, late night talk shows, and say a little spiel, why not open it up to everyone in the public? And since she was so confident to talk about Giselle Pellico at the Time 100, do you know what Giselle Pellico did, Blake? She had an option to have the court closed or open. And do you know what she chose? To have it open for public so that everyone could see and witness when she took down her monsters. Yeah. And if we're just going to start just repeating and regurgitating all the same things that have already been proven to be a lie, I mean, let's tell full stories here, right? So please, journalists, and can we all just meet each other halfway here, at least halfway, if we're going to be spewing these facts, okay? Can we just all talk about the example of here? Immediately, right away, can we just dismiss the boss? Mr. Baldoni casts his best friend to place his face between the legs of his employees, Miss Lively, for an intimate birthing scene. Can we just cut that out? Because the actor has already come out and spoken, right? Somebody had to play that role. Did you also know that Emily Baldoni, Justin Baldoni's wife, played a doctor in the movie? Would Blake been okay if it was her between her legs? Is that what she wanted? Do you know? Or what? Was it anybody? Anybody who was cast to play this role? He was a working actor. Okay? Somebody had to deliver the baby. What did she think? It was going to be a robot? So let's just meet each other, a little bit halfway. A lot of these things have already been proven to be untrue. Like the OBGYN. Okay? And Brian Friedman, when he said, yeah, if she wants to testify, of course she's going to take the stand. Why don't we just have her do it publicly at the Madison Square Garden and sell tickets and give those profits to domestic violence survivors? You missed that part. You missed that part, Blake's team, of where the money would go, the profits, right? To actual victims and survivors. But that's okay. Besides that point, was it a little snarky thing to say and a little bit comical? Yes, but Deadline, you missed where Ryan Reynolds, Blake's own husband, has been laughing and joking and mocking this, what did you call it? Degrading sexual harassment, a degrading experience of sexual harassment. He himself has been mocking it for quite some time. I mean, all the way up from when it was actually happening. Let's just, for funsies, look at just a few examples.
Goodness, wait till you see Lady Pool. She is gorgeous. She just had a baby, too, and can't even tell. I don't think you're supposed to say that. That's okay. I identify as a feminist.
And we're in God's name the intimacy coordinator.
That's just from the Deadpool and Wolverine movie that he was actually shooting at the same time of It Ends With Us, and he was openly mocking this such degrading sexual conduct, this degrading sexual harassment that his wife was facing. And still, after the lawsuit at SNL 50, made fun of it. Why? What have you heard? Ha ha ha, it's so funny. It's so funny that my wife was sexually harassed and I let her go to work like that every day and did nothing except, I got really mad when he fat shamed her. You look like a weak little boy, crying Reynolds, okay? A weak little man. You're telling me your wife was coming home every day, the 16 days that she was on set of Phase 1, crying to you? In one of the text messages that she allegedly sent another person, which haven't seen, don't know who it was, don't even know if that's true, where she was calling them creeps and clowns. And she said that, the set was so difficult, she went home and cried. So she was going home crying. And what did you say? Don't worry, sweetheart, go back. Go back. It'll be fine. Don't worry. Please, please. I don't buy it for a second. None of it. And what's so wild here is even in your last thing, the boss, Mr. Heath, refused to turn around when asked to while his employee, Miss Lively, was having body makeup removed and instead stared at her while she was topless. Let's go to a little quote that Ryan Reynolds said. Now, this is just a quote, but this is actually words from his own mouth during an interview. Ryan Reynolds was asked, what is a moment in time that you can go back to? And his response, the hypocrisy of it all, sweetheart, is that Ryan Reynolds responded with this: I probably go back this morning in the hotel lobby and the nursing mother caught me staring. And I didn't know what the appropriate facial expression was for that. So I just kept on staring and staring and staring. And I just kind of got locked into that like a little time warp. Let's just go back to Lively's amended complaint just to read exactly what she says about Jamie Heath staring at her, because I think it's very interesting how everything's being worded, and to say that specifically just like that about Jamie Heath I think is gross. Everything being stated I think is just so weird to say it just as a matter of fact, because it's like we get two very like clearly different sides of the story here, but here we go. To make matters worse, when Miss Lively tried to have a meeting with Mr. Heath and the other producers to discuss Mr. Baldoni's unprofessional behavior described above, that meeting turned into yet another violation. Rather than an ordinary meeting, time and place, Mr. Heath arrived unannounced at Miss Lively's hair and makeup trailer while she was topless and having body makeup removed by makeup artists. Miss Lively told Mr. Heath that she was almost done and that they could meet once she was clothed. Mr. Heath, however, insisted that if she did not allow him into her trailer to speak to him at that moment, then there would be no meeting with the other producers. Miss Lively reluctantly agreed, but then asked Mr. Heath to keep his back turned. A few moments into the conversation, Miss Lively noticed that Mr. Heath was staring directly at her while she was topless. When she called him out, Mr. Heath brushed it off as a habit of wanting to look at a person while speaking to them. Miss Lively and her hair and makeup artist were already deeply disturbed by this interaction on just the second day of filming. Throughout filming, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath invaded Miss Lively's privacy by entering her makeup trailer uninvited while she was undressed, including when she was breastfeeding her infant child. But Miss Lively did not expect or consent to anyone entering her private spaces while topless, exposed, and vulnerable with her newborn or during body and makeup application or removal. And then she goes on to say that even though sometimes, and there are text messages where she does invite them in while she's pumping, those were times that she gave consent. And Miss Lively's trailer, when she refused consent, is when she was the moments that she is talking about. However, you have to realize that Blake Lively was never alone on set, and she always had her security guards. Her trailer was probably blocked by security, and inside that, her nannies, her assistants, and everyone. So she was never alone. Okay, but then I find it very interesting that also they go into this fat shaming, is Mr. Baldoni also routinely degraded Miss Lively. Okay, this is routinely degrading her. Miss Lively by finding back-channel ways of criticizing her body and weight. A few weeks before filming began and less than 4 months after Miss Lively had given birth to her fourth child, Miss Lively was humiliated to learn that Mr. Baldoni secretly called her fitness trainer without her knowledge or permission and implied that he wanted her to lose weight in 2 weeks. I think Miss Lively was degraded and routinely degraded by her husband, Ryan Reynolds, because Ladypool was written for Blake Lively. And then when it came to play Ladypool, they got a body double. And I have a whole video on that. I think she was in her feelings because she wasn't in the Ladypool costume. Yeah. So then everything that was happening on this set was a direct hit and insecurity of already her pain and insecurities of having given birth yet again. And now let's just talk about the birthing scene, because I'm going to tie it all in together with the actual counter from the Wayfarer people. But it's very important to note that these things are absolutely preposterous. Okay? Preposterous. Is that a word? I hope so. Preposterous. And now we're just going to talk quickly about the birthing scene, because it's very important to know, like, if anyone's watching this video that hasn't been following, I mean, the things coming out of the Lively camp are complete fabrications and lies. And I will stand here 100%, say it with my chest. It is a lie. They are gaslighting everyone. Every statement that Lively's team makes, Ezra Hudson and Gottlieb, are completely projecting and gaslighting everyone. And we're going to talk about it. Even in her complaint, it's a lie. Right here, for example, we're not going to cover the entire thing, but quickly. Mr. Baldoni insisted to Miss Lively that women give birth naked and that his wife ripped her clothes off during labor. He claimed it was not normal for women to remain in their hospital gowns while giving birth. Miss Lively disagreed, but felt forced into a compromise that she would be naked from below the chest down. Then she goes on to say that it was chaotic, crowded, lacking industry standards, protections for filming nude scenes, etc., etc., etc. Mr. Heath and Mr. Baldoni also failed to close the set, allowing non-essential crew to pass through while Miss Lively was partially nude from below the chest down with her legs spread up in stirrups and only a small piece of fabric covering her genitalia. Then she goes on to say that on that day, Steve Soritz just showed up. He just flew in for one of his few visits because she was going to be in that compromising position, and that He introduced his best friend to play the role of the OBGYN, when ordinarily a small role of this nature would be filled by a local actor. And Miss Lively felt that the selection of Mr. Baldoni's friends for this intimate role, in which the actor's face and hands were in close proximity to her nearly nude genitalia for a birth scene, was invasive and humiliating. To add insult to injury, Mr. Heath approached Miss Lively and her assistants on set and started playing a video of a fully nude woman with her legs spread apart. Miss Lively thought, in this new amended complaint it says that, thought he was showing her pornography and stopped him. But if we just look here, and I've done this a few times, literally she says right here, she felt forced in compromise that she would be naked from below the chest down. And then here in her footnote, it says, generally, nudity below the waist in film utilizes a small piece of nude fabric glued around the woman's actor's genitalia to provide some minimal privacy without disturbing the shot, because that fabric is not able to have visible straps from profile camera angles. So it's fine for all the other actresses in the world who shoot birthing scenes to use this fabric. But when Blake Lively has to do it, oh my gosh, sexual harassment, okay? Number one, let's talk about the actor yet again who played the OBGYN, because as an actor as well as filmmaker, my heart goes out to this guy and to Justin Baldoni so much. I could never imagine being cast in a role and then having the lead actress, a name as big as Blake Lively, and I mean really is big, that big because of her husband Ryan Reynolds, come out and say something so grotesque. She's literally also saying that Adam came out just because her legs were going to be spread open, when really he got the role to play a doctor in a huge freaking movie, okay? But he came out and said, I'm not going to speculate as to Miss Lively's motivations for mentioning me in this complaint. Needless to say, my experience working with her is very different than the one she described in her lawsuit. Indeed, I was surprised to read her description of the scene. I mean, he has come out and said that the set was fine. It was kosher. And also she was covered wearing her own boxers as well as being covered by prosthetics. Lies. So you know what, Deadline, if you're going to say one side of the story, you can also say what the counters were, but don't worry, I'm here for it. And let's just backtrack now to walking in and staring at her while she was pumping. This is from the Wayfarer's point of view and what happened. No one to enter Lively's trailer while she was undressed. The suggestion that this ever happened is illogical and categorically false. No one would or did enter Lively's trailer without knocking first and asking permission. More than once, Lively invited Baldoni, Heath, and other producers into her trailer so that she could multitask, understandably balancing motherhood with her work obligations. Regrettably, while accommodating Lively, Baldoni and Heath were led into situations that would later be characterized as harassment. Lively herself invited Baldoni to her trailer to work on lines while she pumped breast milk. Lively regularly breastfed in front of Baldoni while they had meetings. Heath was invited into her trailer for a meeting at her request while she was having makeup removed from her collarbone because she was not able to meet at another time. Her nanny, makeup artist, and assistants were present, and Lively was not topless as she claims elsewhere, but was fully covered while either nursing or pumping breast milk. In this instance, he was instructed to turn away while they spoke and respectfully did so, while they figured out a time to meet with the other producers standing just outside the door. And as Heath pleaded with Lively to have the meeting the next morning to avoid her getting home late and losing shoot time the following day, while it is possible he inadvertently made eye contact at one point, he does not recall. Lively later mentioned he did, and it made her uncomfortable, to which he responded, "I'm so sorry, I really didn't realize." Lively responded, "I know, you weren't trying to cop a look," and they moved on from it. Lively's suggestion that not one, but two professional and conscientious men barged into her trailer several times or attempted to enter or pressured her to allow them to enter offends not only their long-established integrity, but the sanctity of their vows to their wives and their dedication to their children and families. Lively is aware that both men are incredibly supportive and respectful of motherhood. To say the least, Heath's wife is a vocal advocate for postpartum mothers. Baldoni's wife co-founded a company that designed a breastfeeding garment, a prototype that originated with his mother when he was an infant. Baldoni had gifted Lively one. While those facts could never be an excuse for barging in unannounced, it is indicative of the nature of their relationship with and respect for women. Simply put, such allegations are categorically false claims that would have been wildly out of character if they were true. And now, not only that, but which is it? They're these sexual predators harassing women, or they actually believe so much in the sanctity of motherhood and women and empowering women that they spent over $15,000 to get Jenny Slate, another actress on the set of It Ends With Us, another apartment because the one that she rented wasn't good enough for her toddler. Wayfair ate that cost and offered Jenny Slate a new apartment and that they would pay for it. But because he talked so much about the motherhood and the sanctity of motherhood, I guess that was also harassment, and Jenny Slate wasn't happy about that. So which is it? Are these guys absolutely sexual predators, or is it just with you, Blake? They really, Steve Sorrett showed up on set because he knew, Blake Lively, her legs are going to be open. Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath cast you so that even on the second day of filming, they could go into your trailer unannounced when you didn't want them to. And you stayed? And you went home and you told your husband, Ryan Reynolds, and your best friends, Taylor Swift, Bradley Cooper, Gigi Hadid, Hugh Jackman? And what did they tell you? Oh, don't worry, keep going, keep going, keep going. And then the writer's strike happened, and then what was their advice? You know what? Just write up a 17-point list of demands and make sure they don't do it again. Everything's fine. Total BS. Bonkers. None of this happened. I don't believe it for a second. And if these conversations and these things kind of did happen, I think that they have been taken completely out of context based on the friendship and the relationship that Blake Lively herself formed with them through all of her texting, through all of her late night meetings, through everything. She really did form a bond with Justin that in Justin's eyes and heart probably seemed very real, but it was all a ploy and a tactic for this moment, for this. Because if you read all of her text all the way up until she got the PGA mark, she was so friendly with them and everything was awesome and praising them and appreciating them and wanting to collab and work together and make this thing amazing, and was not Blake Lively. It was fake. It was fake. She was reeling them in while undermining them with the rest of the people around them. Disgusting. And this whole he walked into her trailer and was staring at her little moment? You know when she brought that up? To Jamie Heath? A month later. And it was just a sideways comment, allegedly, a month later. When she said, "Oh, I saw you looking." And he was like, "What? No, I'm so sorry. I wasn't looking." And then she's like, "Don't worry. I didn't think you were copping a feel." And then that was it. That was it. Until, she decided it wasn't and then kept bringing it up again. Interesting. But Ryan Reynolds, he's okay. I mean, the one moment he would want to go back in time to is staring at a woman nursing. Who's the real monster here? I mean, it seems very hypocritical. I just find it extremely fascinating that half-truths are being told. I find it extremely fascinating that Blake Lively's team is always saying that everything that Brian Friedman's doing is for the media, but Blake Lively's team is the one that's always talking to the media. And now with these Rule 11 and sanctions and stuff, crazy. Because as I reported yesterday, all of the media are saying, oh, the sanctions are for Taylor Swift, but Taylor Swift, that's not what they're for. And everyone in any system reading these lawsuits will tell you that that is the most egregious thing that you could file is Rule 11. It is so severe. Can you imagine Brian Freeman trying to, one, fight the case? You're not getting any discovery from the other team. They're not complying at all. They're entering motion after motion after motion, sending you email after email after email, doing all. It's exhausting. And then every time you open your mouth, you get attacked for trying to defend yourself. That's the tactic that they're using, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. This is the truth that I see anyway, is that they are completely out of control, and they are bullying and attacking and non-stop, relentlessly attacking the Wayfarer people and Brian Freeman and Justin Baldoni. TMZ also reporting, this is just one example that I'm just going to use out of all of the ones. Love TMZ, but they come out with all of the hot headlines too. Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni. Ryan Reynolds wants Baldoni's team sanctioned for frivolous suit. Justin Baldoni attorney returns fire. No, he doesn't. I read the article, but let's just say one or two things is Brian Freeman is playing his cards very close to his chest, okay? They just get into all of the sanctions and what's happening in the courts, kind of a super brief rundown. But here we go again. Mike Gottlieb and Ezra Hudson for Blake Lively, lawyers of Reynolds and Lively, tell TMZ regarding Baldoni's complaint. These are not serious claims. They are a desperate ploy for clickbait headlines that have no place in federal court. I find them very serious, Ryan Reynolds and Mike Gottlieb and Ezra Hudson and Blake Lively and Leslie Sloan and everyone, Stephanie motherfucking Jones and everyone else. I find what Justin is claiming against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds very serious. Very serious. Absolutely heartbreaking, gut-wrenching, and illegal. And what I find extremely interesting even further is that how can you say that these are not serious claims and they are a desperate ploy for clickbait headlines that have no place in federal court, when the only reason we're here in federal court is because your team filed a fake lawsuit with a company that is inactive with no names attached to it to gain a sham subpoena to get phone records otherwise illegal by Stephanie Jones from Jennifer Abel's phone. Some would say if you didn't file that fake lawsuit to get the sham subpoena and have all of these records that literally show an action plan but don't even prove anything to your point anyway, that this would have no place in federal court. I don't know. And Brian Freeman, Justin Baldoni's lawyer, all he had to say when telling TMZ, even though people are saying they're blasting Blake and Ryan, he just says this. In their latest assault on Mr. Baldoni and the other Wayfarer parties, Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds are now seeking sanctions on the perpetrated ground that certain allegations in their complaint are frivolous. In fact, it is Mr. Reynolds and Miss Lively's sanction motions that are frivolous. The Wayfarer party's complaint contains substantial factual allegations supported by a mountain of evidence. We anticipate that the court will agree. Now, we need to understand that Brian Freeman has seen all of the evidence, all of the behind the scenes, all of the B-roll, everything that was filmed. There are so many things in the FAC that Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath and Wayfarer say that they have on camera. They kept the cameras rolling. And now we have people coming out that worked on the set, at least one person that I know of that's reported that has said that he kept the cameras rolling, and there are tons of footage of Blake bullying people and doing exactly what she's saying was done to her. So, I mean, if it's in 4K, baby, how are you going to hide that? But I think what they're doing right now is because they know they are drowning and they are in so much trouble and their reputations are taking hit after hit after hit, that now they are going to file these sanctions in Rule 11 and try the most desperate ploy that one can do instead of waiting to see if their motions will get dismissed, which is what they've already filed. Birds of a feather, we flock together. Yes, so yesterday we went over Blake Lively's sanctions. Well, you know what? Ryan Reynolds did the exact same thing. He filed sanctions on everyone, and he let them know in April, like, if you don't take back your lawsuit against me, we are going to file this. So he did. He filed sanctions against everyone except Justin Baldoni. And as I was going through it, it was literally the exact same thing we read yesterday, but with Blake Lively. So there isn't much to talk about. I mean, it's all the same things. They're just saying that, you know, other than Justin Baldoni, none of these people have proven that they can sue for this. What I think is very interesting and what I just came to is very strange, but just for the fun of it, we'll read Steve Soritz's one. We're only going to read the opening thing because honestly, it's all the same. It's all the same stuff that we've already been reading. And if we read his motions to dismiss and then we read Blake Lively's sanctions yesterday, it's the exact same, but just in this one paragraph here. And I will say it's kind of funny that like Matt Gottlieb, who is accused of extorting Taylor Swift and sending those emails, is the one sending emails on behalf of Ryan Reynolds. And then Ezra Hudson is the one sending them on Blake Lively. I just find that humorous, just my own little quirk. But Mr. Freeman and Mr. Schuster, on behalf of our client Ryan Reynolds, we write to address the frivolous claims asserted by plaintiff Steve Saritz against Mr. Reynolds, which violate Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. In accordance with Rule 11, enclosed, please find a copy of Mr. Reynolds' proposed motion, which we intend to file as to you, your law forms, and Soritz, if Soritz does not withdraw the following claims. 1. Civil extortion. 2. Intentional interference with contractual relations. 3. Intentional interference with prospective economic advantage. 4. Negligent interference with prospective economic advantage. Together with 2 and 3, the interference claims, defamation. 5, defamation, and 6, false light invasion and privacy. As you know, Rule 11 imposes a duty upon counsel to ensure any pleading or motion presented to the court is not frivolous, legally unreasonable, or factually without foundation, and is not being presented for any proper purposes such as to harass, cause unnecessary delay, or needlessly increase the cost of litigation. A violation of this duty may subject both the party and the filing attorneys to sanctions. For the reasons discussed herein, Soritz's extortion, interference, defamation, and false light claims are so destined to fail based on the facts and existing precedent that no reasonable attorney could believe that they were well grounded. Indeed, as described herein, Soritz's claims are so baseless that the only plausible conclusion to be drawn is that you brought them for the improper purpose of harassing Mr. Reynolds, causing unnecessary delay and needlessly increasing the cost of litigation, all of which is prohibited by Rule 11. If you do not withdraw the aforementioned claims within Rule 11's 21-day safe harbor period, we will seek sanctions against you, your law firms, and your client. Any such sanctions would be in addition to any independent of any cost, attorney fees, or damages that Mr. Reynolds is otherwise entitled to under applicable law. And then they go into why he's not part of it. I would say, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, that maybe you next should be sanctioning your own lawyers for all of these lawyer fees, because this is absolutely bonkers. How much time and money did they spend putting all of this together between you and your husband, between Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds? How many billable hours has your lawyer spent on this? Because you should be getting all of your money back from your lawyers, not from Justin Baldoni and Wayfair. And correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm just going absolutely insane here, but I feel like Blake Lively, when she first filed her amended complaint, which I just pulled up here, this was the first amended complaint, it was Blake Lively versus Wayfair Studios, Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, Steve Soritz, It Ends With Us Movie LLC, Melissa Nathan, The Agency Group, Jennifer Abel, and then she also named Jed Wallace in here, and she didn't differ who did what did what. She's suing all of them for everything. They were collectively the Wayfair parties. She didn't say, oh, I'm suing Justin Baldoni for sexual harassment, Jamie Heath for sexual harassment, Melissa Nathan for a smear campaign and astroturfing, Jed Wallace for... She lumped everyone in together, including Steve Soritz, and It Ends With Us, everyone together as the people that she is suing for all of these allegations, so that when they responded as the Wayfair parties, they put it all together as well. And now she's filing sanctions because those people didn't separate themselves in which claim. But then Jed Wallace in Texas said the same thing to Blake, like, yo, you grouped me in with the Wayfair people, saying that I was sexually harassing you, and then you reported it, and then I smeared you for sexually harassing. You didn't differentiate any of the things. And now Blake Lively, with her 100,000 page response, said, oh, well, I didn't need to do that. I only named you 6 times, and it's pretty clear where I named you and what you did. So, like, in one court in Texas, she's saying that it's perfectly fine that she did it to Jed Wallace, but now she's filing sanctions against the Wayfair people because they're doing it to her because they didn't put exactly specifics. And this is literally peanuts. Peanuts. Because the judge could come back to their motions of dismiss and say, you know what, I am going to dismiss it and without prejudice so that you can refile. And the Wayfair people, easy as that, can just refile with each person and say what their intentions are for suing. It's just absolutely, when I think about all of the things and all of the lies, and now it's like in one court, she's saying it was fine that she did that to Jed Wallace, but here in this court, she's saying it's not fine that the Wayfair people did that to her. And now Ryan's saying the same thing, but it's like, which is it? Anyway, I just kind of went off there, but that's what I'm thinking about. Like, I've read every document, every court document. I've read every law. Now there's 4 open. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, that's why I'm just so confused by it all. Like, how can you be doing this and then saying these things, and then it just doesn't make sense to me. It's not making any sense, and it's absolutely infuriating because we all now have been following it and know the truth, and now the gaslighting, it just doesn't end. Even when we're telling them, like, look, we're not buying it, you're lying, stop saying these things. Like, even you had to even put in the Jed Wallace one, only filed on Friday, the stuff about still the OBGYN, and it's like, what is going on? Like, that's been proven, he's an actor. I'm just like, anybody that would have played that role would have been screwed. Like, hey, you work with Blake Lively, you're done. Do you know what I mean? It's just absolutely bonkers. But that's all I really had to say today. I hope you're having a great day, hump day. Yeah, all of these things coming out, just careful on the headlines and everything that you read, because there are some major biases happening, and money talks. And I think there is a lot of money on the line right now when it comes to Ryan Reynolds, and whether he wins or loses, it's going to affect a lot of people and a lot of people's businesses. But hump day, hump day, hump day. It is a cold, rainy, gross day out there. I'm not very happy about it, but we're going to get through, because the dark days never last. After the rain is the sunshine, as they say. So I've just picked a card here from the Listen Bitch deck. And it is, be an effing weirdo. There's power in that. Yes. Be weird. Be yourself. Be authentic. Be unique. Be sensitive. Be intimate. Be strong. Be weird. Do you know what I mean? Be silly. Be weird. I know you guys only see me like in this kind of arena, but I'm a little bit of a kook, okay? I'll say that straight up. No filters. I definitely am just honestly, authentically myself all of the time, and it took me a long time to be okay with that. And yeah, there is power in it, because no one is you. Honestly, nobody is you, okay? You are the only one. And it is magic, baby. It is magic when you start tapping into that and being open to that and loving it and fostering you and celebrating you. Oh my gosh. It's just like, that's what it's all about, right? That's it. That's my day. That's the video. I hope you all are having a great day. Thank you so much for being here. Drop your comments. Let me know what you think about this. And let's see what happens this week if the judge is finally going to put his foot down and make some actual rulings here, because things are just getting out of control and it's not by the Wayfair people, okay? And it should be said now, and I guess I should have said it earlier, that also the thing hit Brian Freeman's letter about Taylor Swift was only stricken and thrown out because it's being filed in a different district, not because it wasn't right or not because it's not true or that it's not based in any facts. It's because it doesn't belong here yet because it's in another district currently. But once he gets the evidence that he needs, he can definitely file it here. So them to say like, oh, they threw it out within hours. I mean, oh my God. Stop it. Anyway, I hope you're having the best day. If you watched Handmaid's Tale, I'm giving you one more day. We're talking about it Fridays. Fridays, we're talking about the What You Watchin'. So get it. Watch it. It was one of the best episodes of a series I've ever seen in my life last night. Episode 9 of The Handmaid's Tale. Get in it, get on it, and I'll talk to you soon. I love you. Bye.